This is part 3 of a multi-part series. If you want the rest of the context for the story, link will be in the description for part 1 and 2. But with that being said, let's get right into it. My gym teacher had just fed me the flesh of my dead best friend. I know most people would have had a violent reaction to that. Screaming, vomiting, crying. But I just sat there listlessly. He was shouting in my ears, warning me not to tell anyone about this and threatening to kill me. But I wasn't paying attention. I was in shock. I wondered, probably for the 100th time in the past few days, what I had done to deserve this. I was in a daze when he cut the ropes holding me down. When he asked me to leave, when I walked all the way back to my hostel, the pain in my feet not even registering in my brain. The next thing I remember is sitting in the bathroom, crying my eyes out. Every person has a limit to how much they can handle. Your sanity, much like a rubber band, can only stretch so far before suddenly snapping, leaving you a blubbering mess. I was at that limit. One more push and my rubber band would snap. Most people would suggest therapy at this point, and I laughed bitterly when I remembered how that wasn't even an option for me. After what seemed like hours, I dried my eyes and lumbered back to my bed. I was exhausted, and I knew that the half-faced woman wasn't trying to harm me, not to mention that she wasn't even there. Yet I still couldn't get a wink of sleep that night. Hours passed and I just lay there, with nothing concrete on my mind, feeling more and more hopeless by the second. When the first rays of light pierced through the windows, I decided to get out of my bed and watch the sunrise. They say it's darkest before the dawn, and that the first light of dawn always brings with it good tidings, or at least, hope. And I could really empathize with that sentiment, because I felt much better when I saw the pale orange sky in the morning. I'm going to survive this, no matter what happens, no matter how hard it gets. I was going to live. With that resolve in my heart, I went back inside and got ready for school. I needed to think about what I can do to maximize my chances of survival, and as they say, knowledge is power. So before going down for breakfast, I made a list of all the things I knew about. 1. My gym teacher and psychiatrist are involved in a conspiracy to kill and eat children. 2. They can somehow erase the kids they kill from people's memories. 3. They want to kill me, but are not doing so for some unfathomable reason. 4. My psychiatrist, Rachna ma'am, is trying to hypnotize me at each session I have with her. 5. There is a ghostly woman who stays by my bed each night and is looking to help me. And 6. I have an ally, named S, that may or may not be the half-faced woman. And there are so many questions I had as well. Why haven't they killed me yet? How can I stop them? Is anyone else involved with them? What and who is the half-faced woman and why is she helping me? Who is S? First of all, I knew that I had to get in contact with S. Maybe they knew more about what was happening in this school. But how? Initially I thought that it had been Sisti Mercer herself, but that doesn't make much sense. Why would she choose to send me cryptic messages when she and I do spend a lot of time alone? I had another guess, but that would have to wait for now. I put the list in my bag, and I was surprised when I found a pouch in there with a piece of paper attached to it. With a little smell, the demons dispel. S. I smiled as I opened the pouch, and saw that it contained a grayish, powder-like substance. I had absolutely no idea when that got in there, but I said a prayer of thanks to S. I felt a lot better knowing that now I had something to defend myself with. The first class I had that morning was PE, or physical education. I caught Prakash sir smirking at me multiple times while watching my classmates play badminton. It's a little weird not to add the sir to his name. I wonder if I'll ever get used to it. I chose not to react in any way, choosing to clutch my bag harder, thinking about the pouch inside it. He marched over to me after the bell rang, signaling the end of class. "Rachna ma'am wants to see you," he said, grinning like a cat who ate a canary. "Your tomorrow's session has been preponed. Go now." I nodded and walked away. Why would she interrupt my classes? Maybe she found out about last night and wants to see how I'll react? I twiddled my thumbs nervously as I thought about how to escape being hypnotized. If she knew what had happened last night, it certainly didn't show on her face when I walked in and sat down, clutching my bag to my chest. "Good morning, Naina," she said with a smile on her face. Don't let her see anything on your face. I thought and fought hard to keep my expressions neutral. "Good morning, ma'am," I replied. "I had to prepone our session because I was worried about you," she said. "Why, ma'am?" I asked. "I'm doing fine." I heard that you were crying in the bathroom last night. At around 2 a.m., she prodded. Who told you that? I asked before I could control myself. Someone who was worried about you. Much like me, she answered. Yeah, right. Most likely she has someone in my hostel spying on me. But who could it be? One of the other kids? How much does that person know about what's happening here? Are they monsters like her, or are they just being used by her? I doubt that she would trust food with an important job like this, when clearly I meant something to them. So it is possible that it was our security guard Leda, who I had caught napping when the half-faced woman took me to Prakash Sir's house. Did she wake up when I came back? I wasn't paying attention, so I'm not sure if she was awake or not. Your health is my concern, Naina, she added. If you're not feeling well, and if the medicines aren't working on you, we can always change our strategy. I'm fine, ma'am, I said. I don't know who told you I was crying last night, but I wasn't. I'm okay. You don't have to lie to me, Naina, she said. Remember, this is a safe space. My leg began vibrating at that point. I took my phone out and snoozed the alarm. Excuse me, I said. The alarm would go off again in 5 minutes or so, helping me keep track of time and staving off any attempts at hypnosis. You really should keep your phone switched off when you're here, Naina, she said, and then immediately moved on before I could reply. So what happened last night that made you feel so bad, Naina? I bit my lip nervously. I don't know how my next gamble would play off. Will it work, or will it make things worse for me? How badly did they want me near them? Could they send me to a mental hospital if I acted out? I met Prakash Sir last night, I said. He showed me the psychiatric notes you have on me that you gave him. Her reaction was exactly what I wanted. Her eyes widened and her jaw dropped as she began gaping like a fish. She didn't say anything for the next couple of seconds, trying to process what I just said. That reaction told me a lot of things. A. Prakash Sir hadn't told her what had happened last night. B. She didn't know what exactly happened last night in spite of her spies, apart from the fact that I was crying in the bathroom, but still chose to use Prakash Sir to deliver a message to me, to come to her room for a session. Why? Was it a power play? Did they not trust each other? How were they then working together? The only way I could see that happening is that if they had someone else working with them, probably above them. But who? How do I find them? Why did he do that? She whispered. Yes, I hit the jackpot. I wanted to pump my fists in the air, but controlled myself. She pretty much admitted that there was at least a copy of her professional notes on me that wasn't in her possession. I had successfully come out of this without being labeled a lunatic for talking about monsters who ate kids, and still forced her to make a mistake. I shrugged in response. What sort of notes were they? She asked, as she steadied herself. It's a matter of doctor-patient privilege. A privilege you have broken yourself, ma'am. I don't understand, I replied innocently. You think I'm going to tell you about your handwritten notes? Think again, ma'am. She became even more confused at that. I could see the wheels turning behind her eyes as she blinked in confusion. They distrusted each other. No. More importantly, they distrusted each other enough to suspect each other of working against them. This was something I could use in the future. Think. Plan. Survive. My leg vibrated, and I snoozed the alarm again. Ma'am, can I please go? I asked. I miss all my math classes. She nodded absent-mindedly as I scampered off before she could change her mind. I had a little smile on my face when I finally shut off the alarm on my phone. The bell rang just as I made my way to the class, and kids were leaving the classroom giggling as they saw me. It didn't even bother me anymore. I had much bigger things to worry about now. Sonika ma'am was gathering her books when I approached her and cleared my throat. Yes, Naina? She smiled. How can I help you? Good morning, ma'am, I greeted her. Rachna ma'am had me called into her office, so I missed most of your class. I'm sorry. That's okay, she replied. You can get the notes from someone else, okay? I can ask Vandana to help you if you want. Thank you, I said gratefully. So how are you feeling, Naina? Is everything okay? I nodded. I'm feeling much better, I said honestly. You want a chocolate? She asked, pulling out a big Cadbury from her purse. Thank you, I said, but Sister Mercy said I shouldn't eat too much chocolate. I'm not going to tell her, she whispered conspiratorially. You won't either, will you? I shook my head and quickly snatched the chocolate bar. Right. Good girls should know when to keep their mouths shut, she said with a wink. I smiled harder than I had in a long time and left the classroom. Today was a good day. I sailed through the other classes before the recess, paying the utmost attention in class, even as my mind would try to wander off to thoughts of Rukmini and what happened last night. By the time the bell for recess rang, my stomach was a pit of boiling but controlled rage with all the fear having left my body. I knew what I was going to do next, and it will cause the type of chaos that people will remember for a long time to come. Let's see how this works out. You could hear the kerfuffle coming from the staff room at the staircase on the other end of the hallway. It's funny how the same teachers who insist on silence and discipline in class can be so rowdy. Not all of them were there at the moment, but enough that I could make my point. I could see Sonika ma'am sitting and gleefully chatting with a couple of other teachers in the far corner, but I wasn't there for her. The person I was here for was sitting right in front of me. "Hello, Naina," Sister Rose said in a childlike voice that one usually reserves for babies and not 10-year-olds like me. "What do you want, child?" "I want to speak to Prakash sir," I replied. She smiled and let me through. I walked over to him, getting his attention by putting my bag on his table. He looked at me questioningly, wondering why I would have the courage to actually approach him after he kidnapped me and fed me my best friend last night. "What do you want?" he asked softly. I put my hand up to get him to stay quiet for a second. I then dug around for what I wanted in my bag, pulled out a handful and blew it in his face. It was a gamble. I didn't know if the powder would work or not, but it paid off spectacularly. He immediately started howling in pain, as his face started crackling and burning like a wooden log that has been set on fire. Holes opened up in his face where the powder had connected, turning orange as tiny flames licked at his skin, which then charred and turned black as he began writhing on the floor in pain. But watching him suffer, as deliciously satisfying as it was, wasn't why I did this. I turned around and looked at the other teachers. Some looked horrified at what was happening. Some looked shocked and started coming over to help Prakash sir. I saw Sonika ma'am with her eyes wide open, but there was also a hint of smile in there. But most importantly, I could feel waves of malevolence coming at me from some of the other teachers. And at once, I understood. My situation was far more hopeless than I had realized. And there was also another fact that was slamming into the walls I had deliberately put up in my head to protect myself from that devastating truth that was threatening to reveal itself ever since this had started, trying to rip my heart to pieces. But I knew that I absolutely had to face it now. If there were so many teachers and staff who were monsters and actively involved in this, and if they had problems working with each other, then that meant that there was someone at the top controlling them. And deep in my heart, I knew who that someone was. Someone that I would have to face sooner or later, no matter how much I wanted to avoid doing that. I hope you enjoyed part 3 of Mandark's story. Part 4 will commence next Monday.